is continually evolving. Today, we witness a shift in tourism paradigm.
And the cultural knowledge that we have is very important.
This one is an Ifugao Bulul that has been lent to us.
Ito, silk screen. So what we need to do is just get the first layer, on the top layer, the measurement.
We will now make sure that you will not be consultant dependent, and you will now be able to put together your own museums with least assistance from the others.
The basic tools that we need to set up the studio. A camera that you're comfortable with, together with it.
Also, generally, museum staff are advised not to pursue.
In doing that, I'd like to focus on the two important words in that formulation, which is to curate and to exhibit. To curate is to...
So why are museums important? Because museums and galleries give us an insight into the history of humankind.
So even John Dewey, who is a prominent leader in
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 6 of our museum management training, year 2, brought to you by the Commission of Higher Education and Museo Kordilyera. So last week, we had a very productive time with our 4 resource persons on collections management. We had Ma'am June Dalisay, Peter Natividad, Rod Enano, and our very own Clifford Gregorio Jr. from Museo Kordilyera. So we would like to continue our discussion today in relation to formulating your museum's policy manual. No? So naimbag nga bigat, kada kayo amin, mapya nga uma, buenos dias, greetings from Zamboanga, maupay na aga sa ato tanan. Okay, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat and thank you for being with us again this morning. And I would just like to acknowledge the participants from Region 1. We have the Mariano Marcos State University Museum, Mariano Marcos State University Tourism and Hospitality Management Department. We have the Pangasinan State University in Bayambang campus. We have Lyceum Northwestern University. And in Region 2, we have the Nueva Vizcaya State University Heritage Museum. We have participants from LGU Cayapa, Nueva Vizcaya, and the local government unit of the City of Santiago. And in Region 3, we would like to acknowledge the participants from Columban College or the Sambal Museum, the Municipality of Pulilan, the NHCP Museo ni Ramon Magsaysay, and the Protected Area Management Board of Biak na Bato National Park. Okay, good morning po sa inyong lahat. Okay, let me introduce our speaker for today. We had Professor Boots Herrera last year, and she's currently the Chief Director, the Director and Chief Curator of the Ateneo Art Gallery in Ateneo de Manila University. So Professor Boots joined the AAG in May 2015. This was preceded by her post as Director of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Visual Arts and Museum Division, Production and Exhibition Department from 2012 to 2015. She was then seconded from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she was a regular faculty at the Department of Art Studies. She also lectures for the BFA in Arts Management program in the Ateneo de Manila University, where she teaches curatorship, collections management, and other museum-related courses. She was part of our team of consultants for the establishment and opening of the UP Baguio Museo Kordilyera in 2017. Until her posting at the CCP and AAG, she has been engaged in many curatorial and museum-related projects, and among her research and exhibition projects include the Italian sculptor Francesco Riccardo Monti, painter and educator Florencio Concepcion, abstractionist Lee Aguinaldo, and conceptual artist Roberto Chabet. She also co-authored the book, The Life and Art of Lee Aguinaldo in 2011 that won the Alfonso T. Ongpin Best Book on Art Prize by the National Book Development Award in 2012. She is a member of the International Council of Museum and also the CMAM, or the International Committee of Modern Art Museums. Okay, without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Boots Herrera. Good morning, Boots.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for that introduction. Wait, let me just fix. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Sana. Okay. Yes, good afternoon. Good morning, sorry. Let me just fix my screen. Okay, so thank you again for the invitation. I was tasked to prepare for two presentations, generally on drafting policies. Today's topic will be a general approach, a general introduction to museum policies. There is not enough time to go through all the details, but I hope it will help you begin drafting your own policy manual or policy papers for specific programs. So let's proceed. Okay. So I would always use or place the discussion of museum work, museum practice, curatorial practice, and of course policies in the context of what is a museum, no? What is the organizational framework for museums? I suppose by this time the definition of a museum has been presented. So I don't want to go into that. Rather, I'd like to emphasize or go into aspects of the nature of a museum, no? Sorry. Okay. So for those of you who attended last year's sessions, I actually discussed this already in the context of collections management, but of course, it's also important to repeat it in the context of the larger area of museum management. So we always emphasize on the nature of museums as a public trust. And what we mean by that, a museum is created, no, as with a collection entrusted to them, which is held in trust for the public, which means you do not own the collection as your private property, but we are custodians of these objects, the collection that we keep and manage. And it is our responsibility to make them accessible to the public for their benefit. So public's benefit already implies the educational thrust of museums, no? So also, museums are stewards, no? So what is stewardship? As noted here, it's the careful, sound, and responsible management of that which is entrusted to the care of the museum. So in the context of collections management, it ensures that the objects the museum owns, borrows also, because lending is an integral part of museum operations, no? Or holds in custody or uses are available and accessible to the present and future generations. So again, yung forward-looking, no? Forward planning is very important in when we think of how we plan our programs, no? Not only exhibitions, in fact, we always sometimes we forget that there are other areas in the museum operations that we sometimes overlook, but are also integral and very important, no, to the success of a museum. Other aspects or other areas, other factors also that provide a framework for museums would of course be the laws relevant to the organizational entity of the museum and geographical context. So this would be laws related to, in our case, we are an educational institution. I'm talking about Ateneo Art Gallery. In some cases, if your governing body is a foundation, so there are specific there are the Securities and Exchange Commission, no, defines specific guidelines, no, for the existence. Ano yung minimum requirement, no, for a foundation to exist, no? So may mga ganong issues that again, these may not be curatorial, but they are integral to the existence of a museum. The ICOM Code of Ethics for Museums also is very important. I hope this has been presented, no, in the past weeks. There is a 2019 version of the ICOM Code of Ethics, which you can access through the ICOM website. I can also send it to the organizers of this workshop, so it can be sent to all participants. We also have to consider culture-related laws, no, which also impact our operations. For example, copyright and intellectual property laws, no, the Cultural Heritage Bill. There are international laws, no, that also parang we need to consider. For example, the illegal trade of cultural artifacts. So these are just examples, no, of what we need to consider. And then, of course, the institutional context of your museum. And I'm assuming most of the participants are operating within a university, no, or but even if you are not within the you're not part of a university. Let's say, for example, you are part of a corporate organization. There are parang parameters that define your operations within that entity, no? So why is there a need for policies, no? So policies are instrumental in regulating both the fulfillment of present museum functions, no, and the achievement of desired conditions or objectives. So yung idea of regulating, no, it enables us to achieve our different objectives, but within the parang within acceptable practices, no? So that's still that's very important, no? So later you will I'll be using specific examples. Policies are formulated to ensure standards of quality and public accountability in the accomplishment of museum functions. And again, this contributes to establishing and maintaining the integrity of your organization, your museum. Policies are also a shared responsibility between the governing body and museum management, no? So our situations perhaps are different, are very distinct from each other, but I think what's important is even if you are or your museum, let's say, for example, your museum is under a university, iba-iba yung nature of how do you call it, relationship, no? Like, for example, in our case, Ateneo de Manila University has the Board of Trustees, pero the Board of Trustees are not actually directly involved in the policy making of the Ateneo Art Gallery as a university art museum. But instead, we created an advisory council, no? So we felt that was an easier and more, it would lessen the bureaucracy, no, that we need to go through. And kasi yung Board of Trustees of the university oversee the general management of the university as a whole, and we're only one small entity, so it would not have been practical to bring them in, no, as part of the museum management and policy making. So for a manual in planning or drafting your policies, whether it's a general manual or a specific policy paper for or a policy paper for a specific area, no, of operations. Let's say, for example, apart from collections management, fiscal management, no. So it would be important to or articulate the rationale and history of the museum entity, no. Why was it created? When was it created? And what is the current situation? And then, of course, the mission statement of the museum is always important. And this is a text that describes the intent and purpose of the organization. Why our reason for existing, no? The museum itself as part of a bigger organization like a university. And then, of course, the goals and objectives of the museum, which the two bullet points, mission statement and goals and objectives, can actually, it is possible that it will change, or there will be some shifts or adjustments through the year. So it's important to review them always. Let's say every 5 years or every 10 years, no. So this is just an example of our mission statement, no. So it all the different the three components, no, or I just divided it into 3 sentences just to make it clear, no, for presentation purposes. But this text already gives you a background, no, of the university museum and how we see ourselves within a bigger community. So we're acknowledged as the first modern art museum in the country and a leading exponent of contemporary Philippine art, no? So we aim to engage with the richness and diversity of the art of our time, which is contemporary, no, through its active collaborations with artists and the art community. So yung active collaborations with artists and art community, that's very important when in the way we define our programs. Sorry, I see some. Di nagbabago ang slide. Sorry. Wait, let me just. Okay, can we start again? Has the slide changed? Why the need for policies?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. Sige, sorry about that. I didn't read the I wasn't paying attention to the chat, the Q&A. Okay. Siguro pag may technical can I ask the Museo Kordilyera team to give me a heads up, no? Okay. So, this was what I was referring to earlier. Nagbago na ba yung defining the context? Just to make sure that, okay, sige. Okay, so I was talking about the museum's mission statement of the Ateneo Art Gallery. So, as I was saying, engaging with actively collaborating with artists and the art community is an important component of our programs, no? So, and that comes in different ways, no, in different modes, not only through exhibitions, which we will I'll share with you some of them later. So also the part of our mission statement, we emphasize that we are a university art museum. So which implies that our primary audience would still be the university, no? Although we consider our Ateneo Art Gallery is also acknowledged as having the programs would have a scope beyond the university. So for example, recently we had a guest here and I was asked, does the Ateneo Art Gallery have works by students, no? Artworks done by students. So that question is valid because they understand our position as a university art museum. But we do not operate that way, no? We do not ano to, the content of our collection does not give primary ano yun, importance or significance doon sa basta graduate tapos artist, pasok na siya sa collection, hindi ganun. Mas importante yung contemporariness, no, ng work. So being a student or a faculty of Ateneo does not guarantee that your work will be added or will be acquired by the museum. So, pero yung position namin as a university art museum becomes more relevant when we define or plan programs for the public, no, for the university. Like for example, we actively collaborate with teachers, no, in different grade levels. Pagkatapos even sa university level, we have collaborations with different professors. Kasi we see ourselves also as part of an educational and cultural arm, no, of the university. So as a university art museum, we seek to animate cultural life both within campus and the wider community as a hub of intellectual exchange and as a forum for artistic expression and as an art resource. So yung pagiging art resource, no, yun yung isa sa we actively that's a very significant component when we think about access to the collection. We have an art library resource, no? And then whenever there are students asking for to do research, to collaborate with us, we of course accommodate them. No? Tapos the last part of our mission statement, by setting the highest standards of excellence in professional, intellectual, and creative practice, the Ateneo Art Gallery aims to inspire viewers through the power of art so that they become transformative influences in society. So the last part of our mission statement actually brings together the first two the preceding points, no, na yung transformative power ng art from the artist's point of view and the public's point of view, no, is also part of our is an important aspect in how we define our programs. Okay, nag-change na ako ng slide. Okay ba?
Yes, Boots.
Okay, sige. So just I'll be sharing a few images of some past exhibitions that we've had in the current space we are in now. We transferred, Ateneo Art Gallery transferred to a new facility in the building that is known as Arete. We are still Ateneo Art Gallery. The museum has spaces in the 3 floors of the arts wing of Arete. So just to clarify and to emphasize that we are not Arete Museum, we are not Arete Art Museum or Art Gallery, we are still Ateneo Art Gallery, which has been the name of the museum since 1960. No? So we were founded in 1960, formally established through the donation from Fernando Sobel when he donated his personal collection of Philippine post-World War art, no, by Filipino artists, and also international fine, a collection of international fine prints. So, as a university art museum, again to emphasize, our focus is on Philippine post-war modern and contemporary art. So, yung contemporary, nag-aano yan, no? Gumagalaw yan. Kaya, important din na sorry. It's important to sorry, na-distract ako dun sa naka-post. It's important that we update, no, our collection, and our mandate in promoting and supporting contemporary art practice is also realized through our annual art award program. No? So that's the Ateneo Art Awards. So in terms of exhibitions, we do have three basic criteria. No? So one, of course, would be collection-based exhibitions, which are mounted at the primarily at the ground floor galleries. So the ground floor galleries are actually exhibitions that feature mostly the collection. So it's our way also of making sure that the collection, all the works in the collection are actively shared, no, and included in our exhibition program. Right now, we actually have, I think it's almost, we're nearing 2,000 works already, no, in the collection, and of varied parang varied forms, no, and genres. Okay. So this is actually an exhibit that includes both works from the collection. The 4 paintings on the wall are all by Zobel and H.R. Ocampo, all from the collection. And then the 2 works on the floor, this is by Roberto Chabet and this is by Judy Sibayan. These are contemporary works that we borrowed as part, that was borrowed. No? This is a show curated by Father Jason D. The title is Yellow Ambiguity. So that particular project was an example of how we parang encourage curatorial projects that bring together the Ateneo Art Gallery collection and contemporary works. This exhibition at the top right is was held at the second floor gallery. The second floor gallery is very specific in its programs. We call it the Wilson LC Prints and Drawings Gallery. So very specific prints and drawings, works on paper, so or paraphernalia related to printmaking. Pero hindi lang collection-based. Meron kaming mga exhibitions that were featured that focused on works by contemporary artists. Like for example, we've held 2 exhibitions already, all drawings. No, the first was Elmer Berlongan, and then the second artist we featured was Charlie Ko. So these 2 artists both of them have a very established practice. They're known as painters, but what we focused on are the drawings, no, that they produce, they've created, no, and which also gives a different insight on another insight on their practice. So these are works kasi na hindi madalas na nakikita. And that was also one reason why we felt it was also important to open that our programming to that aspect of artistic practice. Now we also have thematic or period-based exhibitions or retrospectives and featuring contemporary artists. And these are held mainly at the third floor gallery. So the third floor galleries, if you notice, it's very, it has a different look, no? Concrete floor, and then you would notice maraming, we decided to remove, not to have the ceiling covered. So it exposes all the what have you, bars, vents, ducts. So, which actually works well. Artists and curators have worked with us, or we've worked with, have appreciated, no, yung distinct quality ng collection, ay, nung space. So this one was an inaugural exhibit that we held in 2018, titled The 70s, no? So I invited a curator, an artist curator, to work with us, Ringo Bunoan, and she conceptualized a show within that framework of the decade of the 70s. This one is an exhibit, part of the exhibition titled Not Visual Noise. We invited Angel Velasco to curate a photography show, which again we were very happy because it was well received. So yung mga projects na ganito, our aim is not to have a definitive exhibition, but to provide, again, platforms, venues for different, to focus on specific aspects of Philippine contemporary art practice. And then, of course, we have the Ateneo Art Awards, which has been around since 2014. So there would always be an exhibition until the lockdown, of course. We have not held an exhibition for the Ateneo Art Awards. The last year's edition, we only had an online awarding, and we sort of tweaked the format to give more exposure to especially the visual artists, kasi walang to make up for the fact that we could not mount an exhibition. But these two at the bottom, these are images of past Ateneo Art Awards exhibit. Okay, these are images of exhibits from the Prints and Drawings Gallery. So again, just to show you yung variety nga, no? So ito yung sinasabi ko, yung dalawa, exhibits featuring Elmer Berlongan and Charlie Ko. So these are all drawings, no? Importante rin kasi na yung alam ko kasi na ito yung silang dalawa, yung among the artists who really are quite rigorous when it comes to drawing, no? Whether as an end in itself or as studies or part of their process of creating paintings, no? So it actually gave the works were equally powerful, even if they're works on paper and small. And as I said, it gave a different insight, no, on the creative process of these two artists. The top left is an exhibition of all. This is a print show. No, we asked Pandy Aviado, a printmaker, and also one of the. He was a former student here he's an alumnus of Ateneo. And during his student days, he was very active in volunteering. He volunteered for dun sa Ateneo Art Gallery, no, during his time. So he has that history, and being a printmaker, the print collection of Ateneo Art Gallery played an important role, no, in his artistic development. And then this is actually our ongoing exhibition, The Ink. Ilustrador ng Kabataan. Again, this is not related to the collection, but these are works by by illustrators, no? Yung book illustrators. This is in line with their 30th anniversary. Okay, so going back, let's move on to different policy areas. So if we are to define the general policy areas, you would have, of course, collection management, no? Which I would say still is very important always, no? Kasi nga, di ba, yung museums exist, yung mission natin is defined also by the collection that we keep and we care for and expand, no? And then programs. So programs not only, as I said, not only relate to exhibitions, no? You will see more in a while. So sa collections management, siguro yung general question is, how are the museum's cultural assets managed, developed, and cared for? Now, in terms of programs, kasi in programming, these are different ways or modes of engaging with the community. So how does the museum engage with its audience, the public, and the community? And then, how do we continue to be relevant? I think this is a very important question. No? Kahit na sabihin natin na even if our collection began in the post-World War II years, 1950s would be the earliest, we are still able to present these works from decades ago as part of conversation that is relevant today. No? So, importante rin na meron tayong ganong perspective, no, dun sa collection natin. How we approach our collection. And then, of course, administration. This may be a very boring aspect of museum management, but of course, this is very necessary. Like in my case, I'm both the director and the chief curator. So, being the director involves not only the program planning, but also managing the day-to-day operations or the general operations of the organization or the museum, and keeping in mind that we are still a public service entity. So again, I go back to the importance of remembering that we are still a public trust. So again, we go back to the three general policy areas, and then ito yung mas specific na. Perhaps this is more, ito na lang siguro, no, gamitin na lang natin itong illustration na to. So sa collections management, which we will be covering tomorrow, no? So you have a curatorial aspect, which involves acquisitions, disposals, loans, and then how do we document, and ano yung policy natin regarding inventory. What is our policy regarding conservation, storage, risk management, etc. So in administration, more specific concerns under the area of administration would be financial concerns, development meaning how do you develop additional relations to enhance your resources. So many museums would have a development unit, and that development unit is actually in charge of patron relationships, no, sponsor relations. So isa yan dun sa magandang i-develop din, because it impacts your financial resources. Then of course, human resources, security, health and safety, then visitor services. I would also add here facility use and maintenance and sustainability. I think that's an important aspect of museum operations that we need to be more conscious of yung sustainability nung programs natin, yung operations natin. When I say sustainability, this would relate to yung issues about the environment, how do we contribute, no, to the ano yung carbon footprint natin. No? So I think this is another topic. It should be another topic altogether, and probably I hope someone can give a more parang extensive or more informed presentation about how museums are how museum operations, ano implications ng museum operations sa bigger issue regarding climate and the environment. Now, with regards to programs, this would, as I said, include, apart from exhibitions, this also involves design and branding, education and public programs, publications, media relations, and promotions and marketing. So these are these are the more specific aspects, no, which as I mentioned, this presentation is really just to give you the different areas of concern that may be relevant, especially, no, you don't have to work on all of these all at once. Kasi baka minsan nagde-develop pa. Pero merong areas like, for example, human resources. What's your policy regarding human resource? You, of course, need to consider, if you are part of a bigger entity, ano yung policy ng university or ng corporation. No? So, hindi kayo gagawa ng sarili nyong policy because you're part of a bigger entity. Ganun din sa fiscal management, no? Financial resources. Like in our case, we are under specifically the Office of the President. So the procedures that we follow, the planning of the budget proposals that we prepare for always go through that. And merong parang specific guidelines, no, na binibigay yung VP for Finance and Treasurer. Like for example, meron kaming recently may sinabi sila na hanggang ganito lang ang pwedeng no? Or rather every year actually sinasabi nila you can only increase your budget for by this much. So we work with that, no? So these are things that are part of when we plan, when we define policies related to finances. We also, another example that relates to financial resources has to do with donations. Meron kaming specific na parang fund na doon namin nilalagay yung donations that are intended for the development of the collection. And when I say development of the collection, it would often refer to acquisition. No? So, wala kasi kaming endowment fund, wala kaming acquisition fund, pero na per se, no? But we have a fund that if in the event that we have miscellaneous income or we have donations, it would go there, and then if we have enough funds to buy a work that we feel is an important addition to the collection, we use that fund. No? So alam nung treasurer namin na yun ang gamit ng pondo na yon. Hindi namin siya pwedeng gamitin para sa ibang gastos. No? So that's and it also helps us, no, manage our resources. So again, we go back to programs. So as I said, ito yung public engagement, no? How do we continue to be relevant? So these are just questions that are relevant to our operations to parang give you an insight into how what policies do you need to consider, or can you consider, or should consider? So, for example, the question of what are the components of the museum's annual program. So in our case, we have exhibitions, we have the annual art award, we have artist talks, online and on-site now, no, more online for now, and then guided tours, education modules. No? So this would be an example, no, of the question already gives you, parang directs you to the areas that the program areas that you can develop. When it comes to exhibitions, your policy regarding exhibition programming can be defined by questions like, what is the time frame for program planning? In our case, it's a 3-year program, no, 3-year plan, and then so parang kaya ito yung isang actually very useful to, especially for me, kasi minsan may lumalapit sasabihin nila, pwede ba kami mag-exhibit next year? Sabi ko, we have a 3-year plan. And then actually nagdadagdag yan. No? So it's not as if my point is, you need to plan ahead. So having a full schedule within at least the next 2 or 3 years actually helps in planning your programs or planning your exhibitions, no? So, or not even planning, ano tawag doon, realizing your projects. Kasi hindi pwedeng overnight yung no? Yung mga plano. Okay, so how are exhibitions planned? So as I said, in our case, the framework, or rather the different spaces already provides a framework for the programming. And then we also get proposals from guest curators, or I invite them for a specific, for a general project, for a general theme or topic. So, and I give them the free hand, no, the discretion how to develop a specific program. So an example, as noted earlier, yung 70s exhibition. Ano ba yung 7? Paano ba yung nagsimula? When we were planning, or in the transition phase, no, moving to our new space, it was I proposed to the advisory council in terms of programming for the 3rd floor galleries. Part of a possible parang theme or topic or approach would be looking at Philippine contemporary art by the decade. No? So, and again, when I say by the decade, it doesn't mean na one show will present everything that happened during that period. So, hindi siya definitive again. What we wanted is to have different perspectives on a particular decade. And so the 70s show, which was curated by Ringo Bunoan, focused on more conceptual art practices. But that doesn't mean na walang other art parang practices that existed during that time. But for that exhibition, yun ang naging focus. No? So we can actually have another exhibit that will focus on the 70s, the decade of the 70s, but in a different, having a different focus or slant. No? So ganun yung parang isa sa mga yung framework that we use to develop exhibitions. Another, yung not visual noise naman, yung isang objective rin namin is to promote and advocate practices in other forms that are usually not easily, not often parang given platforms, no? Like for example, photography. Yun, we felt na it's only recently, no, na nagkakaroon ng focus sa photography as an art practice. And that exhibition actually was very from my end. I felt the success lied in the fact that there were more artists that we needed to consider, no? So kasi ang dami palang artists whose practices are photography based. So iba yun sa photographers lang, no? I mean, hindi ang focus was actually art practices that are photography based. So which really expanded the whole notion of what is photography in contemporary art. If you want to see more exhibitions, no, documentation, you can go to our website. We have an archive of our exhibitions, past, no, and also yung present, of course. Sa education and public access programs, we ask when we plan this, a question that would be relevant is what are the educational components for each exhibition. So an exhibition is not an end in itself, no? So ano yung mga collateral programs or supplementary programs, so, or elements. So we make sure that we provide information, no? So through wall notes, brochures, guided tours. We always have an art speak. Again, now it's more online. During the lockdown, most of our art speak, of course, was not related to an exhibition, but what we decided was to focus on contemporary artists, no, who are not, whose practices are not, again, hindi masyadong nasusupport ng commercial market, no. So they were quite experimental, media-based, no, artists, and also artists whose practices have strong advocacies. Yun yung isang tinignan namin dun sa ArtSpeak online program na. Either a video or a virtual tour, and then of course an exhibition catalog. Our other education programs outside that are not necessarily related to exhibitions would be Art Meet. This is specific to, ito yung parang very, focused, kasi ito yung, we invite an artist who will have a conversation with a class in senior high. So this requires this means very close collaboration with the art coordinator, and this was actually requested by the art coordinator at some point, no? So we felt it was also a good way to develop a new program. So kasi part to nung art program sa junior and senior high. So ano yung naging role namin doon para ma-achieve nila, no, yung objectives yung curriculum objectives nila. We also have activity sheets, online workshops, and then of course the internship program. Okay, so we go to the administration aspect. As I was saying, fiscal management and development. Ano yung magiging policies nyo regarding budget, preparing budget, accounting processes, how do you manage income, no? So ano ba yung sources ng income ng museum? So ticket sales, if you have entrance fees, museum shop sales, yung consignments, tapos may miscellaneous fees kung may rentals kayo. Now yung rentals, this is also very, it's important to consider, to make sure that the spaces that you rent very ano tawag doon, you should make sure that if you have any spaces that you rent out, they do not, it does not contradict or it won't have any conflict in your operations as a museum. No? What do I mean by that? In our case, for example, our exhibition spaces, our galleries, we do not rent them out because as it is, ang dami ng programa na kailangang gawin, ano? And at the same time, if you start doing that, how can you control the direction of your exhibition program? So, in our case, yung rentals, income namin from rentals would come from actually one space, and that's a multipurpose room, no, where we hold lectures. So, dun lang, specific lang doon. No other areas or spaces that we rent out. Even for, let's say, we've had inquiries on kung pwedeng mag-prenup photo shoot sa museum. We don't allow that, no? Actually, hindi lang namin policy yan, but it's also a university policy. So, yung mga ganun. So, it affects your income management, no? So, pero importante yung clear kayo dun sa yung ano ba yung scope ng income management, income sources ninyo. Tapos donor and sponsorship programs, as I mentioned yung kaninang example, yung purchase fund donations, and then other sponsorships. Sa human resource development naman, of course, this is parang this is part of a bigger policy regarding human resource development ng university. So we comply with that, But it was also important at some point for me to impress on them na may mga item positions dito sa museum that need to be reassessed because they're not simply office staff. And in fact, we've been informed na nagkakaroon nga ng auditing ng mga job titles dito sa university, and I'm quite hopeful that some of the staff in our unit will be given a higher salary grade because they will be considered as skilled employees. So sabi ko nga curatorial lang ang nila, ang function nila. Tapos rin yung policy ng when it comes to scholarships and subsidies for studies, for example, study leave. So kami kasi we're not a teaching unit, no? So again, we have to consider ano yung applicable, no, sa employees ng museum, ng Ateneo Art Gallery. Okay, these are just some possible scenarios, no? So in relation to yung more in terms of administrative issues, no? So let's say, for example, a mining company offers to establish an endowment fund for a museum dedicated to the culture of an indigenous community. Immediately you would probably think, oh, that's good, no? We get funding. Pero importanteng ma-assess ninyo ano yung implications nito. Ano yung accountability, ano yung strings attached, no? At saka ano yung magiging impact dun sa image ng museum, no? So siguro in a smaller scale, this actually happened to an exhibition project that I was involved in sa Australia years ago, and we brought a collection from the CCP to the National Gallery of Victoria, and the curator there informed me that there was a representative from a mining company who offered to give sponsorship to that project. And then we found out that that mining company has some issues here in the Philippines. So, yung mga ganong scenarios na kailangan bantayan. Tapos, similarly, let's say for example, a cigarette company agrees to sponsor a museum's educational program. Di ba medyo hindi maganda yung... Tsaka ngayon, hindi na, I think hindi na yata sila pwedeng, or hindi na ano yun, tinatanggap yung pag-promote ng cigarette company. Another sample scenario, a non-profit organization that raises funds for artists' welfare requests to hold an auction of artworks in a museum. So this, there was a similar case that happened to us recently, and we support the mission of that NGO, pero it was not. We felt that opening our space for an auction, again, magkakaroon yan ng ripple effect. Magkakaroon ng, it will set a precedent also. No? So we decided to decline kasi parang it is not part of our programming. And then yung kaninang minention ko, how are monetary donations for collections managed? No? So it's maganda yung very precise or very clear yung guidelines dun sa pag-manage ng pera na dinodonate for specifically for the collections. And then another would be, let's say a commercial gallery offers to co-organize an artist retrospective. I think this is this has been quite common, no? Pero siguro ang importante lang yung how, ano yung how would you present this support, no? So parang hindi maganda yung idea na a museum is co-organizing a retrospective, parang nasa billing. Pwede kasi with support from or part as other sponsors, pero as co-organizer, I think that has to be parang rethought. No? So these are just examples of as parang specific scenarios that can happen. My cases are mostly in relation to art, art museums, the operations of an art museum. So I hope somehow it was able to give you some parang sense on how policies in different areas should be discussed and parang drafted, no? Because in the end, the management of a museum is a shared responsibility. So it's important to think of it always in that context na hindi lang, we don't exist in a vacuum. No, we're part of a bigger entity. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Boots, for that very informative presentation. Now we have so many questions that are forwarded to us from YouTube and then from our chat box. There's a question about now that we still have COVID at the moment, and we know that this will be still a major issue in the coming years. She's asking how the Ateneo Art Gallery adopted the plans to this new normal, especially with your projects and other exhibitions inside the museum. I think this is also applicable for other HAI museums.
Yes, thank you for that question. Actually, isa yan sa yung malaking usapin nung first few months nung lockdown. And I think kami sa AGMAM, yung Alliance of Greater Manila Area Museums, came up with a series of discussions just to share our parang experiences, what we were going through, how we were adjusting and trying to, the word is pivot now, no? Pero noon parang hindi ganun kadali yung pag-pivot, no? Pero yeah, siguro what I want to share is I often I've said this a number of times, no, in online workshops and lectures. The lockdown actually allowed us, made us look into other resources that we have. Kasi we're a small team. We're only 7, no, in the team, and especially managing such a large space facility, no, compared to yung before. Mounting exhibitions takes up a lot of our working hours, yung energy and even resources. Now, because we could not mount exhibitions, we could not open the museum, we really looked into our other resources. So collections, pero through online platforms. So this was when we started developing activity sheets, for example. Tapos meron kaming mga, so biglang naging active yung social media namin. Lalo na sa Facebook and Instagram. Pagkatapos, pero ang point ko is, ang dami pang resources that we could share that we have taken for granted. No? So, sa collection, tapos sa archives, AAG has always organized artist talks, lectures, tapos nire-record. Merong iba na, actually yung early years, may recording pero hindi siya good enough to post. So, yung mga magandang i-post, nag-post na kami, no? So, we had, yung content ng YouTube channel namin, dumami, no? So, in other words, collections, archives, pagkatapos, yung art speak, as I said, instead of we developed an online program, and it was, the advantage there was because we don't have to worry about this geographical locations. We were able to tap artists and artist communities in the regions. And that actually enriched our programs. No? So how did we do that? Ano yung parameters namin? Ito pa rin yung mga artists na parang part nung contemporary art practice. So yun pa rin nandun pa rin kami sa main framework namin. So ganon. And then exhibitions, we actually mounted 3 exhibitions during the lockdown. 2, we decided to continue with it, hoping na, kasi may time na nagre-relax na, tapos biglang naging strict na naman. So, there were 2 exhibitions that were up that were in the gallery, mounted in the gallery for, I think, more than 6 months. Tapos, siguro ang mga nakakita lang kakaunti. No? So, parang, doon, nasayangan din ako. Pero ang ginawa namin, nag-produce kami ng video with the artists giving a talk about their work, a tour of the gallery, that we have it online. Another exhibit which we opened last November, it was a project that we worked on for 2 years. So we started working on it before the lockdown, and it was really intended for November 2021. This is the project we collaborated with the Spanish artist Anthony Muntadas. So yung production nun happened during the lockdown, and we were quite surprised na nagawa rin namin. Unfortunately, relatively konti rin yung nakakita, pero ang ginawa namin, nag-virtual tour kami, may virtual tour. So even the artist hindi siya nakapunta dito eh. Pero masaya siya dun sa sa nakita nyo sa virtual tour. Although we are actually remounting that exhibit next year. Yun. So I hope that I mean the resources really we had to look at the other resources that we have. So yung what we have on stock, no? Tapos yung engagement with artists outside of Metro Manila, no? It became more flexible. And the same is true for, we work kasi with Art Fair Philippines as an education partner. So ganun din, even artists based overseas, no, we could easily tap them. Yun.
Okay, thank you, Boots. So in relation with this COVID, no, in our midst still, so if there is an existing museum policy and now we have to probably revisit our own museum policies, no, adapting to the changes with all of these things happening. Now, there's a question about, I think, tanong niya, which is to me like a paradox. If there's an existing museum policy, but there's a threat of closure due to the failure of administration and programming and also finances. So how do you approach this one?
Sorry, I didn't get the first part. If
In
there's
relation to the COVID and what's happening now.
okay.
So there's a question, I think what tanong niya, we have an existing museum policy, but due to the COVID and failure of administration and programming and finances, there's a threat of closure to that museum. How can we invoke our museum policy to put the museum back? Parang yun yung very complicated yung tanong niya.
Oo nga, kasi ano yan eh. I think yung isang nakikita kong yung implication nung scenario na yon, ano ang mangyayari dun sa collection? Oo. Baka yun ang pwedeng magamit na justification. Lalong-lalo na kung donated, may mga donations. Kasi like in our case, all of the collection of Ateneo Art Gallery are donated actually. A few were acquired through a purchase fund. No? Naghanap kami ng donor para bilhin yung particular work. Pero whenever we receive donations of artworks, in the deed of donation, there's an annex document asking the donor if in the extreme event na the museum ceases to exist, no? What do we do with this donated work? So ang choices doon, option 1 is ibabalik dun sa donor. Option 2, the donor gives the museum the discretion to do as it sees fit. Pero so yun, kasi pag sinara mo yung museum, you're already parang nawawala na yung significance ng collection, no? Yung and you have to remember, yun nga, yung babalik tayo, no, public trust ito. Parang lang sa atin, pinapaalaga. So, ano ang mangyayari dun sa collection? I think that's one one strong justification. And perhaps what they can do is instead of completely closing the museum, adopting parang yung approach sa programming that will still continue with parang continue its role, pero siguro in a smaller scale. Kasi I think importante, ano ba yung exact reason bakit?
So,
is it financial?
Financial, yeah.
Oo, kasi kung financial, I think important, baka hindi yung answer na i-close is not the right
the building
step.
itself is not stable anymore, probably.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's another.
structural-
Well, yun, hindi dahil sa COVID yun. Ibang problema yun. No, no may I mean, that's another issue.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Boots. There's a question about loans naman in relation to collections management. How do you approach, for instance, a museum that is composed of 70% on loan rather than with the 30% acquired in the collection? So is this okay for a museum, for instance?
I think there's no problem with that. Basta klaro kung ano yung responsibility ng museum dun sa loaned works. Kasi hindi ba sa concept ng isang community museum, encourage nga yung
Donation.
the museum does not own the objects but are parang pinapahiram ng community. So the ownership for of the museum is actually shared in a way. So I don't see any problem with that as long as you are clear with your unang-una, kaya nyo hiniram kasi kailangan nyo. Hindi yung tipong papatago lang sa inyo. Kami may mga ganong kwan. Di ba? Hindi pwede yun. Pero yun, dahil kailangan nyo, hihiramin ninyo, ano ang responsibilities nyo for that? No? I think this will be discussed tomorrow more sa loans. No?
All right, thank you, Boots. We have questions from our participants, so thank you.
Yeah.
Please send in your questions. So let's start with this on, the first one is, what is the implication of being branded as a gallery? Because usually we associate galleries as commercial institutions.
Yes, thank you for this question. And this is actually a problem that we often encounter. Hindi naman ganun kadalas, pero may mga, once in a while, may magtatanong, do you sell artworks? No, we do not. We actually, Ateneo Art Gallery's name has been its name since 1960. Why? A gallery in the European context means a fine art museum. So, yun yung history nun. No? So, it was only later na yung gallery nakabit dun sa concept ng isang commercial entity. Kaya sinasabi ko lagi, Ateneo Art Gallery is a university art museum. Yun. So, yeah, that would be the simplest answer. So, and I can see may mga nagtanong, papalitan na ba ng Ateneo Art Museum? Parang, kasi may branding na kami, no? So, siguro and generally, alam naman ng mga tao na I think yung mga nagkakamali lang is because, yung mga ngayon lang kami na-encounter. Pero, so, it's an understandable,
In public memory, I think the Ateneo Art Gallery has retained that position.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question, are there any instances of policy clashes with your confining institutions? What policy areas does this usually happen?
Actually, fortunately, wala. I haven't encountered, no? I think it's beneficial that we're within an educational institution. That has been an advantage for us. Siguro, ang clashes more individual. There are some individuals who, sometimes question the rationale of the museum, and I've answered this by saying, well, big universities have has always had their museums, their art galleries, like Yale, Harvard, diba? So parang it's really more individual, individuals questioning. Pero generally, the university is really supportive. Well, the fact that they went out of their way to build this new facility. And by the way, the funds used for the building of Arete, where we are located, did not come from university funds. They all came from the donors. No? So kaya that's the reason also why all our spaces have names. So that yun yung yan, that's an example of yung policy regarding sponsorship, donations, no? Pero hindi ito specific lang sa amin kasi there was another committee, entity, or ad hoc body that took charge of fundraising for the building.
Okay, thank you, Boots. So there's a question, can a museum staff who is not a curator be allowed to curate the exhibition?
Kasi when you say museum staff,
Iba, researchers,
oo,
collections officer,
actually, we consider them as curatorial
curatorial
team.
team.
Oo, no? So, siguro ang hindi lang curatorial yung nag-handle ng administrative, yung mga matters. And I actually have parang challenged them, no, na yung mag-propose sila ng kung we've had a few or even propose now that we're more online sa public programs, propose topics for an online panel or talk, no? So ganon, kasi that's also part of their development.
Yeah.
Oo.
Okay, thank you, Boots. So there's a question here from Danny Maherano.
Oo, former student ko yan.
Paano po kaya makakapag-ambag ang community experience sa paglawig ng mga pasundayag?
Nako, lalim naman ito.
Museum experience. Halimbawa sa community pantry, even though sa karanasan ay biktima ng red tagging. Magiging bukas po ba kaya ang mga LGU at national government upang suportahan ang ganitong gawain? So ngayon ko lang nalaman ang exhibit ay pasundayag.
Oo nga. Danim, ang lalim mo pa rin magsalita. Oo, naalala ko estudyante kong to. Alam mo, ang tanong ko is bakit mo kailangan i-ano sa LGU? 'Di ba? I think itong ganitong maganda yung konsepto nung kasi kung local government ang parang governing body. Okay, sige. Now, so local museum experience, halimbawa I think it's a matter of presenting it, no? It's the curatorial approach already doon sa team na yon. Siguro yung magiging constructive, no? Hindi lang parang just for the sake of, saying that there's red tagging. Pero how would you address that? Siguro the exhibit should also should look into that aspect. Yung so yeah, ang siguro short answer is make it more constructive and make for the local government to realize na there is something worthwhile about the community pantry, supporting them, no?
Yeah, I think Danim is raising his hand. Don, baka may follow-up question siya. Okay, so binaba na. All right. Okay, so there's another question here. If a museum has different sets of collections of objects, should there be a separate collections management policy for each collection?
I think you would have a general collections management policy, and then siguro for a specific for each subsection, pwede kasing may may specific direction kayo for that, no? I'll show you a website tomorrow. I've been looking into that kasi it's the Royal Maritime Museum, I think, and yun, parang for gano'n, no? Merong iba't ibang may subsets doon sa collection. So, doon sa isang subset, meron silang specific na direction na gustong i-adopt. So, nakasulat yun doon sa So, yun, general and then specific.
Okay, thank you, Boots. Another question. For donations, are there costs or taxes involved? Do donors usually have special requests like insurance to be paid by the gallery or museum or special handling or storage of the object?
Okay. The question is specific to donations, no? Excuse
Yeah.
me. We actually, when we receive donations, we don't pay taxes. What we do, just to share with you yung proseso namin, pag na-confirm na tatanggapin namin yung ino-offer na i-donate, we draw up a deed of donation, which is the donation is actually not to Ateneo Art Gallery but to the university. And then kami yung custodian, no? Tapos nakalagay dun sa deed of donation ano yung value, yung current yung appraised value. Now that value will appear in the deed of donation and in the certificate of donation, which the university issues. So, yung tax implications, actually even the donor, magagamit ng donor yung certificate of donation.
Okay.
Yun. No? So, pero may time frame din yan. Ano? So, recently sinabihan kami nung, I think sa finance office din to finance and treasurer, na kapag merong dinonate, dapat ma-document. So this is already a sample of ano yung policy, no? We have to document it ASAP, and we should issue the certificate of donation within 6 months. I have to check, no, pero alam ko merong number, may period para hindi siya tatagal. Hindi yung tipong dinonate na ngayon, next year kayo mag-i-issue. Hindi pwedeng ganun. No? So, kasi may effectivity yung certificate of donation within 1 year, within the tax year, pwede niyang magamit.
What about if it's donated, but it's been like 5 years na yung...
Well, kailangan yung you just have to confirm, parang on record, the donation takes effect at this time.
Okay.
Para magamit yung certificate of donation. Ganon. We've had a few works na ganon na na-discover ko lang na matagal na palang iniwan ng artist. So, actually, parang nasa catalog namin. So, apparently, na-accession or sinasama sa insurance coverage. Pero, hindi pa siya formally accepted kasi wala pang nai-issue na donation paper. So, 2 years ago lang kami nag-issue. No? So, yun, the deed of donation is stated that year. So, I had to explain to the artist, sorry, kasi yung ganun, hindi ko alam exactly ano yung naging reason, Pero, we just, we evaluated, do we really want this work? And the answer was yes, and so we formalized the accessioning. I think yung isa pang question in relation to yung taxes kanina, yung tungkol sa
tax deduction.
Hindi, tax deduction tsaka insurance, no. Yung siguro ang cost implication is nadadagdagan yung value, yung cost ng na ini-insure namin. So, you have to remember you're not paying that amount. You're paying only a small portion.
Percentage.
A percentage. Pero cumulatively, medyo malaki rin yun. Like, in our case, yung value ng collection namin, especially because of the trends in the art market now, tumataas. No? So, on the one hand, it's good for that the value of the collection is increasing. Pero ang problema dyan actually yung insurance. So, we try to manage the na lang.
Okay. Boots, there's a note from Danim. Sabi niya, yes po, local museum po kasi ang context
planning
to exhibit ng experience.
So, I guess nasagot ko naman yung tanong niya kanina, no?
Okay, so let's go back to the other question. How do we protect our museum from being politicized, both in the context of the HEI and the LGU where it is located? Yan, madalas yan, no? Sa,
Okay, oo. Um, Parang I'm not the right person to ano, answer this kasi to be honest, medyo limited yung kwan ko, no. Kasi siguro ano ba? Ah, kung iisipin ko yung nung nagtrabaho ako sa CCP, no. Was it ever politicized? I think there are programs that will definitely have a very political statement. No? Like for example, I remember in 2012, which was 10 years ago, we commemorated the 40th anniversary of the Declaration of Martial Law. So that's very political, no? Pero it was it was a worthy project, no, to realize siguro yung pagiging politicized, yung ginagamit for an individual's benefit, yun, siguro, doon tayo kailangan maging, maging cautious, no? So, kaya yung, yung pagtanggap ng donations from politicians, I'm not saying categorically no, pero you have to also define the parameters of that donation. Ano ang willing kayong ibigay sa donor in exchange of that. Kaya kailangan tignan din kung ano yung yung ano tawag doon, yung sponsorship package. 'Di ba? Kasi minsan mas malaki pa yung pangalan ng donor o ng sponsor kaysa sa museum, 'di ba? Hindi naman tama 'yon. So, yeah, yun lang. Siguro ganong point. Tapos, alam nyo, ang naalala ko sa CCP, merong, it was an advantage that we had a full year program mapped out. Why? Walang nakakasingit. Kasi, minsan kasi like, may embassy na gustong minsan, pero totoo naman na wala kaming space na kasi naka-block na lahat nung schedule for all the venues. So, we call it singit projects, no? Minsan kasi may mga ganon. So, kami sa visual arts, because our timetable, our calendar is mapped out in such a way na tuloy-tuloy, walang gaps, hindi kami maka-accommodate. So that's an advantage also. So I guess forward planning.
Okay, thank you, Boots. So ito namang tanong nila, what are the challenges of the museum being part of a university or located in the university in terms of entrance or foot traffic or accessibility to the public?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's actually very, before COVID, medyo na kami, parang, because the configuration of the university is such that you only have 2 access gates. So very controlled. That was a challenge for us, especially when we were in the old space na medyo nasa loob ng campus. Ngayong nandito kami sa bagong building, we were hoping na mas kasi mas madali na for our guests to visit. So still the challenge of the university security guards being strict, no? Like for example, I remember we had guests from Singapore, mga curators who were just here not for official visit but for a holiday. And then they decided, let's visit Ateneo Art Gallery. So nag-ano sila sa pedestrian access, tumawid ng bridgeway from the other side of Katipunan. Tapos tinanong sila, where are you going? So Ateneo Art Gallery. Ang tanong, anong gagawin niyo doon? Of course in English. Hindi ba? Yung ganon. So that's one of my frustrations. So ang ginawa ko, I had to talk to the head of the security.
Yeah.
And tell them, you do not ask our visitors what are they doing, what will they do in a museum. So, yun. Tapos, pero eventually, naging mas maayos, no? Yung pagpapasok nila. We just had to tell the security team na, sige, okay lang pakita sa inyo yung ID nila. Pero wag nyo nang kunin. We'll vouch for them. No? Especially artists, no? May mga artists na sabi nila, hindi kami makapasok dyan kasi nahihiya kami. Yung ganon. Tapos may artist na walang ID, na may picture, di ba? Yung mga ganyan. So, pagka ganon, I would tell them, just tell me when you're coming para iiwan ko yung pangalan nyo sa guard para papapasukin kayo. So, ganon. Now, the COVID created, again, another layer of problems. In fact, kasi ngayon, isang gate na lang, no? Which of course I understand. When it was alert level 2 in Metro Manila, Ateneo admin did not yet allow us to open. Hindi, sorry. Alert level 3 pala. Alert level 3, museums were already allowed to open in Metro Manila at a limited capacity. We were not yet allowed kasi sa loob ng Ateneo, yung parang IATF ng Ateneo, alert level 2 lang kami pwedeng magbukas. Kaya mid-February, this year kami nagbukas lang. Even when other museums were already opening gradually. So I guess yung sagot doon is we need to work within that system. Hindi naman namin pwedeng sabihin na although sinabi ko actually yun, pero sabi pa rin sa akin, no, this is the policy of the university, then we abide by that.
Okay. Thank you, Woods. A question from a barangay. Local naman siya. Is it possible to have a barangay museum, more than one museum focusing on the history of their barangay, and a museum hub, like a main museum in the city focuses on the history and culture of the city? Or LGU plans to have one main museum?
Gusto ko yung question kasi parang I look forward to visiting this barangay na may ganong ka-rich yung heritage, yung history niya. Now, of course it is. It's possible to have that. Siguro yung ang maganda dyan, yung planning starting from the LGU, klaro na kung ano yung direksyon at saka yung yung responsibilities na they need to take on. I think, di ba, Ikin, that was very important for UP, no? Na we always talk about setting up museums, but it doesn't end with the opening of the museum. That's just the start of all the work that you have to do. So yes, it's possible to have that kind of setup. You just have to make sure that the local government is committed, no, to the task in hand, no, on hand. And pwede rin kasing gawin yan in phases. You don't have to do it all at once na sabay-sabay mong ibubukas. It can be in phases, no. So magandang you learn from the first siguro museum, and then kung merong plan for another one, then you can proceed as you see fit.
Yeah, in our work dito sa Museo Kordilyera, we have encountered community museums. No? So I think I presented the paper on decentralizing museums. So we found there are small museums,
Yeah.
community-led, school-led, no, teacher-led, no, na mga museums sa Cordillera. But I think there are also problems. No? They started the museum, but they don't know how to sustain it. No?
Sustain. Oo. Yeah.
Nabubulok na, hindi alam yung preventive conservation, paano ba i-curate. So I think, well, I vouch for the idea that we should support our local community museums, lalo na ngayon that they are starting to be are aware of this museum training, no, that dapat accessible sa kanila. So we're extending our support to small museums, especially in the regions, na dapat din silang tulungan, no, sa ganitong aspeto ng museum work. Okay, another question.
Antong isa, yung barangay museum tapos na, no? There is a building here, yung once called the museum. Unfortunately, due to change in terms, na-wash out. What do you mean by na-wash out? Metaphorically or
It was moved to a private museum.
Okay. That building didn't pass the stand.
The museum structure due to ventilation issue. Is it okay to reconstruct it or to rebuild one?
I think the word is build, not rebuild. Rebuild is you're using, diba? Ideally, the best, I think in this scenario, the best move is to construct a new building that should adhere to the basic requirements, no, of the physical plant of a museum. It does not have to be air conditioned. I think I'm sure this has been presented. Don't think of museums as always that always needs to be air conditioned. Basta maayos ang ventilation. Maintenance is you have a clear protocol for managing the space, maintaining the collection. So yes, I think that would be the best option rather than reworking on an existing building na mahirap din i-maintain.
Okay, thank you, Boots. Ano bang mas ideal from Danin? Ano ba ang mas ideal na project sa isang maliit na institution to start this endeavor? Museum or gallery muna?
Sorry, sige. So semantics uli, no? When you say in this context, if it's a choice between a museum or a gallery,
mas madali.
Hindi. Ang ano ko kasi, what do you mean by museum or gallery? Kasi pag gallery, ang impression ko is it will be an art collection. But is that the strength of the community? Diba? So is it relevant to the community? Siguro ang question is kung is it ideal to start with a small project, a small entity like a cultural space. Siguro ganun na lang, something more generic. I think yes. Again, we go back to the principle of community museum na hindi siya kailangang malaki na merong building na konkreto. Kasi you can move towards realizing eventually a museum in phases. So you can have like a culture center na kung saan you have different activities including an exhibition space, and that the programming for that exhibition can feature local artists, local artisans. So doon parang nagiging testing ground, 'di ba? Yung bago ka makarating dun sa bigger entity. So yeah, you can do the planning in phases.
Okay, so we have our last question. What should a museum do if after informing the artist to take down their work from storage and they haven't done so? Is it okay to
Okay.
forfeit the work in favor of the museum? Proceed with the accession process? What does the museum put in the work's information?
Okay. So, I'm assuming that this museum has in part as part of their program, meron silang changing exhibitions, no? It's similar to we experienced this sa CCP years ago in the 90s. Ang CCP kasi merong art collection ang CCP pero hindi masyadong majority nakabodega nung mid-90s, no? So isa yun dun sa naging parang objective nung I was director in the mid-90s and also in 2012 to 2015. We wanted to as part of collections management yung i-exhibit, no? So that's one. But apart from that, merong yung different spaces ng CCP Visual Arts, tuloy-tuloy ang changing exhibition, kasi nung I think 1990s meron silang nagsimula yung grant program for visual artists. Pagkatapos so siguro in 1 year sabihin mo na mga 20 exhibitions kasi merong 4 other spaces na pwedeng gamitin, 4 or 5. When I was assigned to the visual arts in the mid-1990s, nakita ko, nung pinasok ko yung bodega, yung storage, nakita ko ang daming works. And majority doon, malalaki pa, hindi sa amin. So, nakwento nga sa akin na itong mga works na to, matagal na, years na hindi kinuha. So, ang ginawa namin, sumulat kami sa bawat artist. Sabi namin, andito yung trabaho nyo, kailangan kunin nyo na. Kung hindi nyo kukunin within a particular period, we will dispose of it as we see fit. So, disposal can either be, we accession it in our collection, or we can consign it to a gallery and get the yung ganon, no? Although that didn't happen. Kinuha nila. Diba? So, ang bottom line dito, you have to be strict with implementing your policy. So, ito part ng exhibition policy sa consignment. Kasi medyo naging lax yung unit sa pag-follow up dun sa mga artists. So, ang importante lang sa case na yan, bigyan nyo ng notice yung mga artists na may ganon. At kung hindi pa nila sundin, then bahala. You can do as you see fit. Wala na kayong kasalanan doon.
Okay. One last na lang, Boots. No? Regarding insurance, can our full collection of textiles be insured as one? Or per piece?
Maybe kayo. Ano ba ang nyo?
Kasi, I think, yung basta mataas yung value, yung
they want it specific. No?
Yeah, specific insurance. But for others, they want it like one.
Parang lot.
Lump na isang.
Naka-lump. Parang isang lot siya, ito ang value. So, yeah, to answer the question, ganun nga, no? Yung, kasi ang importante, yung ganyang requirements, hindi, parang mas para dun sa insurer, dun sa insurance company. Para naiintindihan nila, ano ba yung ini-insure nila. So, I would say na baka hindi pwedeng isang lump sum na value. Pero like what Ikin said, I would suggest siguro gawan nyo ng yung i-group nyo according to significance, di ba? Oo. Na ito, tsaka kasi that will translate into more definite value. Yung mga you can group the small ones, no? And then that are alike, and then give them a lot value. If, kasi ang question, ang ano dyan, ang sagot din dyan, tatanggapin ba nung insurer?
Sure, yeah.
Yun din eh. So I cannot really answer that definitively. Kasi in our case, lahat, parang bawat isa may value. Pero like for example, marami kaming print folios, no? So a print folio is like a compilation of prints na unframed siya. So let's say for example, 250,000 yun. Composed of 10 prints. So dun sa sa valuation, i-divide lang namin na by yung amount by the number of prints para magkaroon lang ng valuation.
Okay. Wala, naubos na ang tanong, Boots.
Okay na.
Thank you so much for
Sige, maraming salamat.
Some last words for our participants before we end the session. Continue tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll focus on more collections management matters. Pero I hope itong session na to made you realize ang daming aspects ng museum operations na kailangan nating tutukan din or pag-isipan, no? So, yung paggawa ng policy manual, kasi kami actually wala, yung policies namin are more, medyo pa din eh, we need to consolidate them. No? So, pero I think, in my case, I also benefit from the history, the organizational history, what has been done. So, it's just a matter of formalizing them. And may mga forms na existing na I had to review. Pero it's not as if I needed to start from zero. So, yung organizational history ninyo, importante yan, especially those who have been around for a number of years. So, kung may mga nag-retire na employees, make sure nakausapin nyo na. No? Para, kasi part yan ng ng history ninyo. No? So, again, going back, it's a shared responsibility, and the responsibility is shared also by people who have served the museum before you, and you can give them parang a platform to continue to be part of the museum. Okay.
Thank you so much, Boots, and thank you for our participants. So we'll see you again, Boots, tomorrow.
Yes.
For that session.
Nandiyan na ako sa Baguio by then. I'm driving up.
Welcome to Baguio.
I'm driving up later in an hour siguro.
Okay. All right.
And
thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Sige.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, participants, for your questions and comments for today's session. So meantime, please do give us a feedback by answering the form in the chat box. This is one way of monitoring your attendance and also your participation for this webinar. So tomorrow, our topic will be on collections, formulating your collections management policy, to be given by Boots Herrera as well. No? So thank you very much and have a hearty lunch, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.